Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Education Quest Live. I am Jason, as always, and with me today I have Amanda. Amanda is a college planning specialist in our Lincoln office, and she's here to talk to us about verification, which is that process that kind of happens after the FAFSA. So if you have any questions about the FAFSA or about verification, if you've been selected and you need some help, we have comment sections on both Facebook and YouTube, and you are more than welcome to put your comments in there. And questions in there, and we will get those and answer those for you live here. But let's get started, Amanda. They have to do the FAFSA before they get selected for verification. So what is that process for doing the FAFSA?
So essentially, students need to complete the FAFSA, typically with their parents, and then once that's submitted, it's going to be sent straight to the colleges of their choice. They can choose up to 10 of those colleges.
So they complete the form, they send it to schools. Mm-hmm. They need something called an FSA ID, right?
Right. It's a username and password.
Okay.
It's connected to their social security number, and it becomes their signature. Their parents also need one, too. At least one parent needs one anyway.
With their dependent.
Right.
And we have a bunch of website material, and there's stuff we've posted, videos and stuff. We even did a live video on the FAFSA process. So if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Facebook, you can go back and look at those videos and watch those, and that'll help you kind of get through that process. So when the FAFSA is done, how are they selected for verification?
1 in 3 students is randomly selected for verification, and it doesn't mean that student has done anything wrong necessarily.
Okay.
But it's just a way of quality control for just making sure that people are getting the right stuff, because we want to make sure people aren't missing, any funds.
So they shouldn't be worried about it. It doesn't mean they did anything wrong. Right. It's almost bad luck, basically. Right. It's like, congratulations, you could do more work.
Right. Just give us a piece of paper and prove that this number is true.
And then move on.
Yes.
And then in addition to the 1 to 3, there's another way that they can get selected for verification, right?
Yeah, so sometimes a school can notice some information about your FAFSA that may look a little contradicting, so they might have to just clarify what you meant on the FAFSA, or maybe catch something that needs to be changed.
Okay. So what information typically needs to be verified?
Most commonly tax information.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And is that only when they do the IRS data retrieval, or is that if they don't do IRS data retrieval?
Doing the IRS data retrieval is definitely going to help, because the school knows that information is solid. It came directly from the IRS. So not using the IRS data retrieval is definitely when they're going to ask for some tax information from you. Mm-hmm.
So whenever possible, they should be using that.
Absolutely.
What are some other things?
It could be household size. Maybe you have multiple kids in college, so they just want to make sure that your siblings that are in college are attending someplace at least half-time, or just to get some clarification on how many people you're counting in the household.
So what do they commonly ask for that? Do they want proof that they're going to school, or?
It's usually just a simple worksheet. It's not that bad. You fill that out with your name. Your student ID is so important because they're tracking you by that to make sure your forms are turned in. And then you list out members in your family along with what college they might be attending, or maybe they're not attending at that point.
Okay. And then is this a standard worksheet, or is this something that's different school to school?
Yeah, it's different school to school. So your school individually is going to send you either a PDF of that form, or they're going to give you a link to where it's located on their website.
So I think a common question, because I know it's something that we certainly encourage, is for students to apply to more than one college to have options on where they want to go. If they have applied to different schools, are they now in a position where they have to do verification paperwork for each school?
Yeah. If you've been federally selected by the federal government, you're going to have to complete that verification at each school in order to see that full award letter.
So is there some sort of penalty if they wait too long? Is there a deadline that they need to be aware of?
A lot of schools are going to have a priority deadline that you want to get that stuff handed in by, because they're going to be doling out some funds and you want a piece of whatever you can get, especially the stuff you don't have to pay back. So,
right.
Yeah.
So if they take too long to complete that verification paperwork, they could miss out on some of that grant funding or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the quicker, obviously, that you get that done, the better that they're going to be. So what's the timeline for when this all takes place? When should they expect to see some sort of notification?
Sometimes it really depends on the college. Some of the larger colleges might take a little bit longer. Smaller colleges happen a little faster. It depends on how many they're processing. So
Right.
I would say within a month after, submitting your FAFSA and being accepted to the college, you should see some sort of notification.
Okay. And then where would they look for that notification?
It's that student portal. So every college that you're applying to is going to give you a way to create a student portal, and that really becomes your hub for each of those colleges to find out what information is due, what kind of worksheets, and they will typically have a to-do list that shows you everything that you need to be completing.
So the student does the FAFSA, and they get selected for verification, they complete those worksheets, send in those necessary tax documents or W-2s or whatever it is. What then happens after they've completed that verification process?
So it's all that paperwork is going to be, processed by the college itself, and then they should be expecting an award letter. So that award letter showing them everything that they're going to be qualified based on the information submitted.
And then that's, again, something that we've covered before, but they get that from each school so that they can kind of compare school to school, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you should complete the verification at each school, because you want to see what that end result's going to look like, because it's hard to fully predict what that full award letter is going to look like. And then you can make a very educated decision on what school is financially working for you, and then with the other pros and cons of that school as well.
So the overview, the generalization of this is that verification is not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's just kind of something simple, extra step that they have to go through, but it is important that they complete it.
Absolutely.
And they do it quickly. Are there any tips or anything that they need to know, or things that they could trip over, common errors that people make on verification?
Sure. Well, make sure that you're checking your email frequently. I know that some people can kind of be lax on that. And so make sure you're checking that to see if there's any indication that you need to turn in any forms. We just don't want you to miss any of those notifications.
Yeah. Again, because that deadline. So if you miss that notification for a month, that's,
Yes.
kind of putting you behind the eight ball to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else that they should know? Or, I think a lot of people will ask the question of where should they turn for questions if they're having issues or if they don't know what's being asked of them.
Right. Well, obviously there's Education Quest. We're very experienced in helping students with the verification process. You can also contact your financial aid administrator at the college itself if you have some additional questions, but we are happy to help you navigate that process because it can feel intimidating sometimes. They're asking for some pretty important documents, and so sometimes people just want to double check that they're getting it right when turning it in.
Right. And like all of our services, that's a free thing that they can come in and sit with someone like you and go over that verification information.
Absolutely. So. I'm kind of a weirdo. I'm a verification nerd. I like that stuff. I want to make sure that they're getting stuff correct and that they're not feeling too nervous about it. But, sit down with us or even talk to us over the phone and we can walk you through what you need to do.
Yeah, like we mentioned before, I think the biggest thing is just, a lot of people finish the FAFSA and they think that because I got selected for verification, I did something wrong.
Yeah.
So I think that point that you made earlier about, 1 in 3 students just get randomly selected is, a key thing. Like, it's not something that you did. It's just the roll of the dice kind of thing. So.
Yeah, especially if you have a situation where you do have to manually enter in some tax information.
Right.
So let's say mom recently filed her taxes and you had to manually enter it in. There's a higher percentage of people that might, miss a number or something. So they might want to take a double check because, again, it's in your best interest to try to get the exact funding that you're eligible for.
So with that then, is it something that students can see they wouldn't have seen their aid, but could they lose funding? But they could also gain funding, right?
Yeah, it could really go either way. So if there was a mistake and a number was left out that could impact it, it could affect, mainly just the Pell Grant because that's the one that's very sensitive to your expected family contribution. But you could also gain it. Maybe you missed out on checking a box and when it's clicked, or maybe there was somebody else you should have counted in the household size and then you gain Pell Grant eligibility. So,
or the other thing is I'm notorious for kind of zipping through things keypad wise. And I would totally, when I did my FAFSAs for grad school and stuff, there were many times that there was an extra zero in my checking accounts. It's like it totally changes things.
Right, so. Absolutely.
So simple things like that, they're like, well, it doesn't make sense that you have that much in savings, but
Yeah.
that little an income or something. So those are the types of things that they're checking for.
Sure. And one common mistake I see is that when the FAFSA asks for businesses or investment farms, sometimes people mistake whether their farm or business should be included in that number.
Oh, okay.
So, if the school sees a very large number there, they might have a little question to see maybe you included that number by mistake because you farmed that land and that farm shouldn't have been counted. So,
any other tips or anything you'd like to tell them before we sign off today?
Especially for high school students, make sure that you're getting your FAFSA done as soon as you can because there are scholarships that depend on that FAFSA to see if you're eligible for scholarships. Scholarships like the Buffett. And then don't be afraid of reaching out and asking questions because if you do nothing, you're going to lose out on something.
Right.
So, make sure you're reaching out to either the financial aid office or us at Education Quest. I mean, Omaha, Lincoln, Kearney, and even Andrew out in Scottsbluff are always happy to help anybody. Right.
So all that contact information is on our website, so you can go there to get that. That kind of concludes the live portion of this, but if you're watching this after the fact, we do still monitor the comments on this video. So if you have questions about verification or something, definitely put those questions in that comment section, and we will make sure that one of the specialists or something gets you a good answer to those questions. So don't hesitate if you do have something to put it there, or look at our website and contact any one of our offices.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next month for another Education Quest Live. Bye.
Bye.